All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Black Brain Trust Economics, episode 97. I'm here with my co facilitator, Lionel.
Hello, everyone. Hello, how's everyone doing? How you doing today, Mike?
Good brother yourself.
I am well.
All right. Let's get started with the hangout. If you want to follow along, it should be below the description. The docket's in the description. Wait, is it episode 97 or episode 96?
97.
Yeah, the
97.
email. Yeah, the email says different though. Email says 96. Just stand by. I need to
Roger
repaste
that.
the repaste the docket inside the description. So.
Roger that.
Interesting. How do I do that? All right, let's get started. So this first video is actually from CGTN. Sales Sale of China's construction machinery on the rise. The sale of construction excavators rose strongly in October thanks to a warming of the infrastructure sector. Analysts say investment growth in infrastructure will continue to pick up due to a government policy of support for the infrastructure sector in the second half of this year. More contractors are buying new excavators, account for almost 70% of total sales. This reflects growth in the government loans for construction recently. So I'm bringing this up because um, you don't see, I don't see John Deere, Caterpillar. I see Chinese manufacturers. So people are spending, but they're buying Chinese equipment. And according to the article, according to the video, what they're saying is that sales are up 44% compared to last year or the year before that. So that means that the market is actually doing well, or will do well going forward from fourth quarter this year into first quarter of 2019 and second quarter 2019 as well, because they're seeing periodic growth quarter for quarter. What's your take on this?
Now, is this for the Chinese economy or America? Does the American economy, is the American economy affected by this?
It sounds like this is for non-American economy. So if they're saying infrastructure development is happening because of Chinese investment, then that means that the non I want to say non-Western
Mm,
economies are
okay.
actually growing. So they're seeing growth.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, because when I saw this, I was wondering what. All right. So they're seeing growth in their construction. Obviously, if they're purchasing construction equipment,
Mhm.
then the construction itself is still going high, still going on, such as buildings, real estate, so forth, so forth.
Right, and it's always been talked about that China is going through a bubble, or
Hmm.
there's a bubble coming to China. Hey, what's going on, Paul Bryant? Um, if there's supposedly a bubble, people wouldn't be buying equipment like that. It's not big tractor excavation equipment. That wouldn't happen.
Right.
You would see a downturn in sales of equipment. So
Then that's interesting though. If China is going through a housing bubble, as they say, you have, of course, these ghost cities. They say these ghost cities in China where you got these big, tall residential buildings, and no one's living in these buildings, and they're crumbling apart, and you have couples that are getting divorced just so they can buy more houses. And there's people saying, the economy is going down because of this housing bubble, so forth. But I don't understand. Okay, you have this housing bubble, and a China economy is slowing down per the analyst, but then you see construction materials and equipment selling, and that industry is doing good. That's, I don't know
well,
if
I
China.
I, th- I think the problem in China is that they had expectations of high growth for real estate because of lifting all these people out of poverty, all these millennials coming out. But now what I think we covered this before that those millennials actually don't want to work those labor jobs, right? So now you have less people buying houses because less people are the millennials are not reproducing children at the rate that they should be. So now there's a family gap, a social gap in family development, which leads to less acquisition of homes, less purchasing of homes. And now you have these like you said ghost towns, these ghost cities and whatnot that are just um, for the most part you have a lot of new construction but no new tenants,
Hmm.
and people are getting divorces in China because they get taxed higher if they're married and they buy that real estate. So I think there's like a cumulative of issues, social issues in China that affect policy. But then from the construction aspect, if construction is happening, that means raw materials are being bought: steel, aluminum, lumber, screws, all the other staples that are used for building materials.
Hmm.
So for me, I look at the market and I'm saying where which companies are actually involved in Home Depot and Lowe's. I don't know if Lowe's is even still open. Um, Home Depot and Lowe's, and what you know th- those areas of staples that are being sold for carpentry and manufacturing. DeWalt drills and Black and Decker and things like that.
Yeah. It's an interesting video, and from because it tells a different. Well, it's potentially telling us a different story from what we've been hearing over these past few months about the Chinese economy.
hmm Right, they're supposed to be slowed down. China's going to feel it. Trump's tariffs are really going to hurt them. Looks
Yeah.
like anything's happening now. I don't see any speed bumps happening over there.
Mm. Somebody's lying.
Or
Somebody's
somebody,
definitely
yeah, somebody doesn't understand the numbers.
lying. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next. Move on to the next one. All right, this one is from TRT World, and the title is Chinese fintech firms revenue at $94 billion in 2017. Money talks. There's no question technology is changing the way we use money, and one company that helped pioneer the so-called fintech in Hong Kong is Octopus. It is a firm behind the card of the same name that is used for everything from the metro to the supermarket. Joe Flynn spoke to CEO Sunny Shuang to find out what the future holds for payment technology and how he's planning to stay ahead in the curve in China. So, You have anything you want to add to this, Lionel?
Yeah, in the video they were talking toward the mid to end. They were talking about um to make by making payment more easier and fluid in China. Ease of pay. They talked about what was it? Near field communications. Well, RFI, near field devices.
NFC.
Yes, yes, NFC. I don't know why I want to say RFID. NFC. That's another one. But then he talked about QR codes and how QR codes can also make ease of pay easier. You know, people paying with their phone, they open up their phone, the camera phone,
Mhm.
take a picture of the QR code and send the payments to whatever merchant they are at. So China is using different applications to pay, such as WeChat. Then you have this, well, you've been had this firm, Octopus firm, where you can pay supermarkets and other places. So it sounds like that it's a fintech firm, so financial technology. It sounds like they're looking at different technologies to implement in order to grow their business, and B, make ease of pay, introduce different eases of payment for that Chinese people can use to pay for whatever they're purchasing.
Mhm. Right. They want an open payment system. So the open
Mm,
payment system would allow for multiple methods of payment, but still come back to the same fintech.
hmm hmm
So
Instead of being, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
right, right, and I think there's a way that you could take some of these what we call dumb phones, right? Phones that don't have any smart features, and still utilize those because those are still big in places like Japan, places like Africa and Latin America. Um,
Venezuela.
huh?
They do that in Venezuela now.
Right. That's why I said Latin America.
Oh yeah, you just said it.
So those dumb phones can still partake in the same economy. Though you don't need all these smart features. So it's interesting that you can design payment systems around multi-tier of phones, multi-tier of devices, and not have to actually force people onto one platform like Apple does, with Apple Pay and things like that.
hmm Yeah, yeah. You being beholden to these ecosystems. And at first, the Apple ecosystem was nice because a few years ago, 5+ years ago, you hear, "Oh, hey, I can purchase my music through Apple, my movies through Apple, and so forth." It's the ecosystem, and therefore I can watch these things throughout my Apple devices. But now times have changed, thoughts have changed, and the freedom people want to use different payments have changed. So now that ecosystem doesn't apply nowadays. So you have to you don't want to be beholden to just credit cards or, like you said, Apple Pay. You want to have the option to pay with different ways. Now you got Venmo and like other two apps that you can pay with in America. That is, but yeah, this fintech company is looking to implement different ways people like to pay.
Right, and they're saying 60% of the payments in Hong Kong is due through a digital payment.
Mm.
60%. So that's a majority of the market for your economy. What's going on, Karaoke? I know. Can you send him the link? Yeah, I think Lionel stepped away. Let me see if I can find Karaoke's email. All right, so this next video is actually from TRT World again. Nigeria business challenges. Microfinance helps first-time business owners. Okay, let me send that to you. Actually, yeah. So this video is basically talking about how small Nigerian business owners actually struggle, not because of ideas or concepts, but because they don't have access to financial resources. So banks actually charge them up the wazoo, nosebleeding rates just to borrow money, and they also assume your collateral as well. So if that's the case, then you kind of don't have any other option. So microfinancing actually comes into play here to actually give small lumps of money at a shorter rate of time to borrow. So when this happens, this allows many small businesses to actually stay afloat, and they don't have to actually give up any collateral. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That's happening in Nigeria, which is like the largest country in Africa on the continent. They should have at least more resources to choose from. So. Yep, I sent it to you. So, I know you have anything you want to add to this? Yeah, I think I know is stepped away. But yeah, I think microfinancing is definitely the way to go for small, medium businesses, especially micro businesses as well. You're talking about push carts on the street where people sell small goods locally on the ground. So in America, we call them panhandling. So you need a panhandler's permit and license to actually sell these goods. If you have these temp carts or these merchant carts, that's where microfinancing actually comes in. Kiriaki Jones, what's going on, brother?
Peace, brothers. What's going down? Let me shut the door here.
Yes, sir. I don't know how long you've been listening for, but you have anything you want to contribute for right now?
All right. Thank you for the invite, and peace to the Black Brain Trust. Peace to the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, what's going on,
I'm here. Yeah. So I was just watching about the various payment methods, and also kind of the discussion about the Chinese economy. There's a lot of press on both sides. Some analysts think that the Chinese economy is slowing. Others are pointing to, like was mentioned, the capital goods and the infrastructure spending. I'll be the first one to admit that I don't follow China that closely. I think one can make good arguments for either side as to what's happening. But I do know that just keeping up with dispatches I get on my desk, a lot of, like say the IMF, I think the Bank of International Settlements, some of the, international institutions are indicating that we might see slower growth next year. So if that's the case, you could see a slowdown in China.
Now, with this article you just went over, Mike.
Yes, sir.
With the micro loans, the microfinance, the only thing that I saw that is, a while was the 40% interest that they charge these people that with these micro loans. And like the guy in the video, he was saying, he's been with his bank for years. He's done other loans and so forth, but now that he come with one in a business loan, it's a problem. So he go to this um, microfinance agency to get a micro loan for them to open up a business, but it's 40% and they have to pay it off in 9 months. Albeit we don't know how much they borrow, but still 40%. You paying the loan plus half of it. So your payment's going to be high, and you're going to have to pay back more money. That's the only
I think forty
drawback.
percent. I think 40% is the maximum threshold, not the average, right? It's not like
It's a maximum. Okay.
Yeah, I think like it says up to 40% from my understanding. So it's not guaranteed. So it might be based on individual basis, right? So depending on how big of a loan you need versus the amount of time that you need it for versus your credibility.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was thinking she was saying that but still up to 40%. Still up to 40%. That's a lot of interest on a loan, and I wonder what the median, the average interest for these loans are.
Yeah, the biggest problem I think that happens with these small black businesses is that like the video was saying was that your brick and mortars typically don't want to lend, and when they do lend, they want collateral, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they if you don't pay up, they're gonna come take your store from you, and that's unacceptable, right? Especially if the economy goes through a downturn, then you have to give up your property too. That doesn't make any sense. That's basically a loan shark at that point. You're talking about breaking people's legs just to get whatever it is that you borrowed back or what you lent out back. So I think there's a market. Let me bring it. Well, I don't have the article in front of me right now. So the African Investment Bank that started with the BRICS actually just had a summit a couple months ago, I think back in the summer, and they were just talking about microfinancing, and they've been microfinancing businesses in Africa since 2011 up to like $300 million. So a lot of these small businesses in Africa, whether it's Kenya or Botswana or these places, they're able to stay afloat through microfinancing. And I think that there's a market for this when it comes to cryptocurrencies. I think you can probably do a lot if you figure out how to develop a fintech and actually dole out these microfinance payments.
Yeah. I think microfinancing is good because, like the article saying, like we know, the brick and mortar banks may a lot of times, more times than not, will not give loans to people without collateral. These people in the different countries that are unbanked, the quote unquote unbanked, or the quote unquote this or that, they don't have a lot of collateral to give the bank to put up for the bank for the collateral. So this microfinancing is a niche business model, and with the upcoming fintech industry, it does play a role, and it is needed. And like you said, a lot of people float with these microloans because it really is all they need. They don't need thousands of dollars in loan. They just need enough to get started.
And that's why we have to focus on things like black co-ops. Because black co-ops would actually help mitigate a lot of these finance issues. It forces people to actually leverage off of each other and bring something to the table rather than to just get a job. You actually become a stakeholder as well as a contributor. So, what's going on, Dollar Will?
And what's happening, brother? I'm just jumping in, just trying to catch up to what y'all are talking about. But what's the default rate on those loans?
microfinance loans?
Yeah.
They don't say. It's actually more success rate than a failure rate. I think that's why they exist.
Yeah, I was going to ask
From what I've read about the African Finance Bank, the AFB, seems to be very successful. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I probably didn't catch it in the article, but is it high as far as the interest or the max interest? Is it because there's not a lot of? Is there collateral involved? Are they putting up like land or equipment or anything like that for these loans?
So your traditional brick and mortars want collateral, but the microfinance institutions are saying we don't want collateral. We just charge up to 40% interest, and you have to pay it back in 9 months. Which I think
is just unsecured.
Yeah, unsecured loans.
Okay.
What were you saying, Dollar Will?
Nothing. I'm just thinking about the efficacy of that model. No, what's the longest? Do you have any idea, which of any types, any of these banks, these making these micro loans, how long they've been around? You know, what's the longest running success story?
They don't give all that information in the article and the video, but I've been doing a lot of research the last day and a half about microfinancing in Africa, which is why I sent that email out to you guys about African Investment Forum that's coming up. So
right.
They don't really go into the specifics about how long those banks been around and these institutions been around, but the problem is that your Barclays, your mega corporations are actually hurting these small businesses by acquiring them or acquiring their property due to defaults. So you may not pay your bills on time, or you may have your brick and mortar snatched from you. That's unacceptable in Africa, right? Those are fighting words.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. If someone, if Barclays can't get their money at a lower interest rate, charging 40%, if the person can't pay, doesn't really matter.
Well, it's up to 40%, up to 40%, not actually 40%.
I got you. But charging more does not necessarily increase the likelihood that they will pay. But I guess this is where we need a banking person to say, okay, the law of averages. If you get this many people paying, say, up to 40% interest rate, then you can absorb a higher default rate because you're getting up to 40% on the people that do pay it back. I'm sure they worked out the mathematical formula for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, go Cowboys!
Absolutely, go Cowboys!
I called it yesterday. I said by 7, but it was like
they did
more than that.
Oh yeah. You were right on the previous week, though, right? You know, you're right on it.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to compensate me for my services. So.
They charge the battery.
Oh yeah. Let me get to the next article. All right, this video is from Tunacheki. Akon launches new cryptocurrency Acoin to combat corruption in Africa. We've heard about this before. Akon being instrumental in the western part of Africa, including Senegalese, where he's from, or Senegal, where he's from. Coming up with this Acoin. I know. What's your take on this crypto?
We covered this months ago, and everything that was stated in the video was stated in the article how he was gifted land from the president. I think the video said 22,000 acres, and he run off crypto. Mm-hmm. So if it's ran off crypto, we run on blockchain, and he's saying that a lot of the youth in Africa don't have the capital to start the type of businesses that they want to start. So, 2,000 acres, not 22,000 acres, 2,000 acres. And
Mm-hmm.
he want this to be a place where a lot of African youth can have the ability in capital in order to start the type of businesses that they want. Now, if we were just listening, well, if we were just reading this from out of nowhere without any background of what he's done so far, I would brush it off. But we can't readily brush it off because what he did with the lighting situation, the contract he did with the Chinese, bringing light to a lot of villages. So I would not readily brush this off. I would keep keep an ear out on on how this is advancing. This project is advancing.
Mm-hmm. Curiosity Jones.
Yes, sir. It sounds interesting. And I was thinking, I want to rely on your brains actually, because I don't, unfortunately, I'm more U.S. focused more than anything. So it sounds like a common theme that we have here is a lack of access to capital. So we just had the article about microfinance, and now we have Bitcoin. What are some of the structural barriers that, say, entrepreneurs in Africa are running into? I'm just not kind of seeing why there isn't more of a free flow of capital, it seems like.
I suspect, and some of the stuff I've been reading this week is that over time is that there's a lot of oligarchs holding on to money, so they control some of the banking institutions, and then you have your Oppenheimers and whatnot that are basically just not giving out those loans and investment. So that level of bureaucracy is there, and I think what Akon was saying in the video was that there's a lot of corruption in Africa. Now, Paul Kagame from Rwanda, who heads up the AU right now, has basically said that in order to fight corruption, we have to start putting in tariffs on China. And
interesting.
Yeah. So putting tariffs on Chinese goods coming into Africa would actually help to alleviate a lot of the corruption, because China subsidizes a lot of that corruption as well, including the United States as well.
Huh. Interesting. Is that workable? Because I know they have the African Union, but and I'm not too familiar with the inner workings, but is this something that would be across the union, or would it be up to individual countries to kind of get that going as far as tariffs?
So the African Union would set a mandate that each country would have to charge a certain type of tariff, a certain level of tariff of up to 2.5% on certain goods coming in from China and coming in from the outside, but more importantly, China, because China is dumping a lot of these goods onto the continent, and that's putting a lot of small black businesses out of business because they can't compete. Right, you're selling Chinese flip flops at 29 cents, and you charge $5 for them. You kind of you're out of business at this point. So I think that's the hurdle, right? And then you have the other issue on the ground where people have ideas, black people have ideas, but they can't get their ideas off the ground because there's no financing available for them, right? So there's no ATMs, there's no small microfinance agencies or any small business agencies like we have in the U.S. We have the SBA, but there's no SBA inside Africa. So,
Well, I did read a few articles about basically, we all know that China is very big on their export model, and they basically wanted to basically turn Africa into a captive market, if you will. But that's an interesting idea as far as putting up tariffs. It sounds like to me, and I think that to a certain extent, this is true in the West. It seems to me that, there's plenty of money sloshing around all over the globe. It's just the distribution is where it's breaking down. It's not getting down to the people that actually need it.
And you can also look at the remittances for people sending money back to Africa, especially from the United States and Europe. I think they're losing something like $1 billion a year in remittances due to the fact that the rates are so high, coming through Western Union and MoneyGram and all these other, these brick and mortar institutions here in the United States. It's really hurting, the Africans when they send it back. So they can't really get their businesses off the ground.
And I want to add, I agree with Paul Kagame because countries put in tariffs to protect their homegrown assets. You may have a country, say Switzerland. I don't know what I'm about to say is perfectly true. I'm just using Switzerland as a um, example. Say Switzerland primary exporters are eggs, because they have arable land and so forth. But the neighboring country can produce eggs at a cheaper solely because there's more people. But Switzerland will put a tariff on that country just to protect their egg producers. So I'm saying a lot of African countries don't have tariffs to protect their producers, such as the flip flops. You have to put a tariff on these type of products. So I agree with Paul Kagame when you want to put a 5% or whatever percent tariff on. But it's not just from China, from any other country to protect the economy of your own country. So I agree with him wholeheartedly in that perspective.
Oh, well.
I pass.
Is that a flea flicker?
Yeah, it's a flea flicker. I punt.
All right. No, so looking at Akon's Acoin, the infrastructure behind it is already there. So you have your decentralized apps, which is called D-apps. So the way how that's going to work is that the people on the ground are going to leverage his platform, the decentralization of applications, to actually put their apps on his platform, and then they'll collect payment and transactions through Acoin itself, through the token itself, and then your economy is kind of consumed by this whole entire infrastructure. He talks about ATMs, corner. In the United States we call them bodegas. Your corner shops, as well as what do you call that? Small microfinance banks. Your small institutions. So the infrastructure is there, and as well as the size of the city is actually pretty interesting because it's about 3.2 miles square miles, and you look at a place like I think DC is something like 89 square miles. So it's not that much. It's about the same size as a ward inside DC.
Yeah, I would say, keep an eye on it. He, per the different things he's done so far, he's done some good work. So I wouldn't brush this off so readily. I'll see what happens.
I mean, he's talking about backing the natural resources in the ground, right? So he's talking about, I forget what Senegal has from a resource perspective, but I guess there are some precious resources there. Let's say cocoa or tea. You put that through a crypto, that becomes, that could shake up the market pretty good.
Yeah.
I hate this stupid pop-up. All right, this next article is from Ethereum World News. Ripple XRP CEO, goal is to overtake Swift banking network. All right, cryptocurrency Ripple XRP, in a move that could prove precedent for the emerging landscape of blockchain and banking. The CEO of Ripple has thrown down the gauntlet against primary competitor Swift. On November 13, Ripple Labs Incorporated CEO Brad Garlinghouse told Bloomberg TV that his blockchain-based company is able to gain customers at a fast rate relative to the market because financial firms are looking for faster, more modern technology than what is currently offered through entrenched fintech company Swift. So Swift is the old dying system. it's the standardized system for payment transactions on the market, and it usually takes 72 hours for a payment to clear. But you have something like Ripple, who comes in and sets up infrastructure overnight, and basically could sidestep your whole entire payment system. And their payment system is twice as fast, if not 10 times more faster, and a lot less costly, cheaper. And then you factor in, you can make these payments almost instantaneously. Why do you need SWIFT? Where is the necessity for the dinosaur systems such as SWIFT? Now I'm no banker, but what I do know is that SWIFT actually keeps other countries from doing business, such as Iran, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela, Sudan. A couple of countries in Africa on that list as well. If I'm those countries, I'm looking for an alternative payment system so I can get my money out. What you're seeing now in not Lebanese banks, in Iranian banks, billions of dollars are stuck because of these sanctions. I can't get my money out. I need another way of doing business, and I think Ripple is actually threatening, the old oligarch system.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree because also in an article they pointed out what just happened, that SWIFT kicked out Iran from its banking, being able to bank with SWIFT, like what you just spoke about. So they did that because of the pressure from America. So people are looking at SWIFT like, you're just an extension of America. You're hurting our economy, and you're just doing what America. So in that eye, they're alienating countries in the Middle East, and all the not all, but some of the stand countries and a couple of countries in Africa. So next thing you know, you're going to have some of these countries, if not all so far, partner with an alternative, which is Ripple's XRP, which is faster, which is cheaper, which is easier. So SWIFT is dying out. They are a dinosaur, and they can't make that transition.
Kiriaki Jones, got anything?
Yeah, I'm being as how I'm in the business, we have like a strict compartmentalization, right? So if you want to know about bonds, for example, I got to get you to a bond trader. If you want to ask me about crypto, I got to get you to someone that actually trades crypto, right? But putting that to the side, I like XRP for all the reasons that you stated. I think it is I think it's a great technology, although I would point out that, and I think this was mentioned earlier, the political risk is there, because I don't think it would be too difficult for, the Treasury Department to come down on, Ripple and say, hey, you can't transact between these countries. So, maybe other nations would have to devise a Ripple-like system, or maybe they would have their own currency that would work on blockchain. I have to admit, I'm not really up on, the mechanics, but the thing I like about Ripple is that it actually has a use. I happen to, be in the industry, and one of the things my clients complain about endlessly is the fact that, like you mentioned, they have to wait 72 hours for wires to clear. And, people hate that because they're, wiring money across seas on a regular basis. So those are my thoughts. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm just waiting for a good opportunity to kind of get in on that in an easier way. I'm not a huge fan of the cryptocurrency exchanges, but maybe that's because I'm a dinosaur. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, my only rebuttal on what you said is you saying how the American government can tell Ripple, don't do this, don't do that. Well, Ripple owns the XRP technology. If the Ripple company goes away, cease to exist in any way, the Ripple technology still exists. So the Ripple technology works outside of the survival or non-survival of Ripple, the company. So if the American government tells Ripple, don't do this or we'll shut you down, forcefully shut you down, and they go ahead and forcefully shut down Ripple, then XRP, which is the token that's traded on cryptocurrency exchanges, will continue to exist. And it will continue to be used by countries.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I don't know like all the details.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I listen to you guys and talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's how it's set up.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to pay attention to this too, because I can't imagine the entities that are making the money off of charging the fees for the SWIFT system that they're just gonna not use their power to fight in some kind of way. This is a lot of money. There's a lot of money that they're losing. I mean, it's got to be some. They have to have some kind of strategy for protecting their cash cow. So,
either they'll let their cash cow in terms of the fees. Either they'll let that go and start filling their bags up with Ripple. Well, let me stop saying Ripple. Using the correct context. Filling their bags up with XRP tokens and watching the price of that skyrocket. That's the only way I see if they go with the flow.
Yeah, I just can't imagine a force, a big international force like that, just saying, okay, we're gonna walk away peacefully, and you've made our toll booth obsolete. We're just going to quietly go away.
Yeah.
You could see some sort of, appropriation, because like in the trading industry, depending on which firm you're talking about, there's been basically a trading price war, like commissions were cut drastically amongst, some big brokers. So, maybe you do see maybe instead of it being, $25, $30 plus conversion fees for wire, maybe the price comes down to $5 and no conversion fee. I mean, not every bank charges that, but maybe you'll see some sort of price reduction and appropriation. If I were running a Swift connected institution, if I were Goldman, for example, that's what I would be thinking about.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. It has to be some chess move. They're gonna. We don't know what that move is, but I like your idea. Yeah, competition should in theory bring down prices.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're gonna have to.
But when you
this.
Right, in the article, I think they talk about Iran. The problem with Iran is that European companies have already made their accepted that they were going to do business in Iran. Peugeot, Renault, Total, and these other British Petroleum, all these other companies decided that they were going to do business there, and Trump came in and decided that he was going to renege on the agreement, the JCPOA, which caused these companies to pull out, because he was threatening to sanction private companies. So what Kyriaki was saying earlier was that Ripple could actually be sanctioned too, and they may not want to do business in certain countries. However, this is driving other countries and other companies to say, hey, well, we need an alternative system to the SWIFT. The SWIFT, for one, it's slow and it's old, and number two, if we can get a faster payment system put in place, they're going to think about all types of ways of getting around it. Now, if I remember correctly, China put up a satellite last year for, for cryptocurrency payments. Basically, you can't block their payment system unless you decide to take down one of their satellites, which would be a declaration of war. But this is the extent that they're willing to go.
Okay. Now there is going to be a fee with XRP, right?
Yes.
I think the initial fee that I've been seeing is something like 10 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would imagine that. Is there any like currency conversion? So, for example, XRP is XRP regardless of country or transaction?
Yeah, what happens is, say like you want to send money to China from America, and the two banks are in the RippleNet ecosystem. So you would convert however much money you are sending from America, you convert those dollars to Ripple, not Ripple, XRP, and then you will instantaneously send that XRP to China. It's going to take a few seconds, maybe a minute at the most.
And then they would convert it to renminbi or
Right. To remember
okay.
this.
So there would probably be some sort of spread, even though it's not maybe a small spread between, or someone's going to be charging to be the middleman, or is that?
No, it's bank to bank. There's no middleman.
Oh, okay.
And Ripple would be the middleman, if anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about it, because my first question is, how can the brothers profit? So it sounds like that maybe one could treat it like one would trade currencies.
Either what you can do is purchase XRP or get an XRP node. And what an XRP node is, it verifies transactions. I don't know how much an XRP node is going to cost. I don't know, but that's the only two ways I can see someone making money with XRP: the growth and the continuous fees with the nodes.
Yeah, I'm going to buy the crypto.
Yeah.
Or the node. The node is something that gets trusted on the network.
That's Lionel.
Yeah, that's me.
Lionel is the node guy.
Yeah, the node is what makes the whole system decentralized. The more nodes out there, the harder it is to attack one central location. And the more ways there are to verify transactions, which means the more ways transactions have, the more avenues it has to go to that endpoint.
Let's see. So the nodes basically keep the record of the blockchain?
The master nodes keep the records of the blockchain. When you have nodes such as, the nodes of like Bitcoin or a Lightning Network node, something like that, it verifies transactions. The master nodes keeps a record of that coin's blockchain.
And the various, there's of course redundancies there to make sure that there's no, nothing underhanded going on. So you got lots
of the blockchain is a redundancy. So if anything changes because it's immutable, then it doesn't get trusted, and that node doesn't get trusted either.
Right.
It gets marginalized out.
Rejected. Wow. Yeah. So there's ways, if Ripple Labs were the only people that held these nodes or verified transactions, then yes, American can say, hey, stop doing that. But they purposely are trying to decentralize the network as much as possible. So you have people buying up these nodes. So the transactions from country to country, bank to bank, whatever the case may be, like I said previously, have different avenues of being verified on XRP's network. So if two banks are on XRP's network, there's multiple ways of that money getting from one bank to another.
Let me get to this question in the chat from Abdullah. The Black Brain Trust, is there a way that people can send money without remittances? You can send it through snail mail. That's one way, but the new technical way about going about sending money is through digital payment. So NFC, tapping two phones together to make a payment, using things like M-Pesa that they have in Kenya. That's another way. And then you have something like through cryptocurrencies.
A question.
Yes, sir.
So, and this is kind of related to Paul's question as far as value. So is XRP kind of like gold in that it's a kind of a finite quantity of currency?
Yes.
And so basically, like, let's say that everything was priced in XRP. So in other words, we would not have the inflation, deflation effects that we do with fiat currency. Is that right? Or is that off target?
The maximum number of XRP that's written in code is 30 billion. That's the maximum number of XRP.
So prices would have to adjust depending on.
Right. The prices will have to go up because if you have a plethora of banks sending money back and forth all day, every day, then, if a couple of people want to send a couple $1 billion back and forth, there wouldn't be enough XRP to send. So the prices will have to go up to compensate for that money supply, and not just American money supply, but the money supply of the world.
Mhm.
If all these banks are on the XRP network on what they call the Ripple net, so the prices would have to go up, but that's contingent on Ripple signing all these banks and taking over Swift.
So that could be one way to potentially profit, right? So if you buy, I don't know what the price is right now. It's like what, $2-3?
40 cents.
Oh, okay. So I'm off. Okay. So, I mean, you could buy a bunch at 40 cents. And then let's say that best case scenario, they sign up various banks, they become the new default method. Maybe the price goes up to, I don't know, $1,000 a coin or something. Then you just basically, sell it at that new price, whatever it is, or, convert it into dollars at that higher price. So kind of like almost like a capital gain kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's going to be one heck of an increase.
One
It
hell of
would
a
have to be because there's on any given day there's a couple $1 trillion sloshing around. So
Well, keep in
And
mind
it
a lot.
definitely seems that, you can correct me, Lionel and Mike, that XRP has like the best use case of all of the cryptocurrencies.
For finance, that would be true. There's other blockchains that are in place that could be used for multiple other things, other services and whatnot. But keep in mind that Ripple actually signed on a lot of retailers. So your 7-Elevens and your brick and mortar stores are actually starting to switch over to, or they have signed up already for Ripple. So those transactions that are going to be taking place, that starts to add up over time, because you factor in the point of sale system is being used. I can't even count how many times in a day.
Right.
I used to implement and deploy point of sale systems.
But if a lot of people are using XRP at the 7-Eleven and for international transfers, that's going to be something that people are going to know that particular cryptocurrency at all levels. The commoner as well as the banker. So that's going to drop that price up.
Yeah.
So right now, where we think Bitcoin, we may think XRP.
Right. Mm-hmm. And currently XRP is the number 2 token according to market cap. It overtook Ethereum, and it stayed there for right now. And
I think because Ethereum has its own issues.
Yeah, they got its own issues. So to answer your question, Kirikakri, that's one major way black men can profit off this. But you got to get them to stop thinking that it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. And, that leads me to another question. The only reason why I personally, I signed up for a few places, but I never actually traded any type of coins is, I don't know, it just seems to me, and maybe because, I'm a old school, stock guy, it just feels cumbersome to buy and sell. So is it on Coinbase, or are there easy ways to purchase the currency itself?
You have XRP is not on Coinbase right now, so you will have to.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah,
2019.
Yeah, it's coming. But like as of right now, Coinbase is the entry point for most Americans. It is the entry point for Americans to get into cryptocurrency. So it is kind of cumbersome because you have to purchase Bitcoin and transfer it to put your fiat on Coinbase, then purchase Bitcoin, then send your Bitcoin to a exchange that sells XRP. So that's a technical know-how. People are afraid to lose the money. So in come these fidelities with their I forgot the name of their program that they're coming out where they'll link you up to these exchanges through Fidelity, and it'll help make it easier for you to purchase XRP, or Bank of America where they'll hold your XRP for you. So me personally,
MasterCard.
right, or MasterCard. Like me personally, I wouldn't do that because I know how to go about and doing this stuff, but the everyday person, it'll be up there. It'll be good for them because they don't want to deal with the technical know-how.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think that's just in my mind, it's kind of like as I watch markets move, you've got prices being set on the margin. So you've got a couple people on the Black Brain Trust buying and selling. Then you have other people that are following along who get into it. And then finally, you've got like the institutions and stuff like that. And last, of course, mom and pop, by getting into it. So, I think maybe the easier it becomes to get into, maybe we'll see a lot more capital rush in. I'm just kind of, interested in seeing like when that might occur. So that's kind of my thought on that.
Right. Your common everyday 9 to 5 minimum wage employee needs to have easy access. And that's what Coinbase does. I think we've discussed this before, but Coinbase is basically what does to the crypto market what iTunes did to music, to digital music. So it has to be easy for me to pull out a dumb phone and actually have access to cryptocurrencies. When I say dumb, I mean a dumb phone has no smart features. So your most basic and phone that only has a dial pad, there has to be a way for me to actually utilize that phone to have access to a crypto. And if that's not available yet, then your adoption rate is going to be much slower, and it's going to be a lot more cumbersome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to admit, I said it before, but I've been kind of somewhat following along with XRP because I like the concept. I think it could actually work because I could envision my clients actually using it and wanting to use that, for their. There's a whole lot of international money movement that folks are doing. So,
yeah, because 1,000 times 1,000 is $1 million right there.
Yeah, see that the XRP, it just makes sense to me. It's like it's just basic enough for me to understand. And I bet at some point, when the crypto stops flaming out, I'm gonna take a decent position and I'm gonna hold it. I don't anticipate my being a trading in and out. I'm gonna have a core position and I'm just gonna hold it until the charts tell me, yeah, it's time. It's time to get out.
I've sent money overseas using Western Union, and the higher amount you send, the higher that fee is. It can go to $75. It's expensive. It's very expensive. And when I heard of XRP, I just fell in love with it because I know how it feels to send it feels to send money and you have to pay that fee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to answer one more question that, or at least point out something that Kyriaki brought up earlier. How can brothers capitalize off of this? Well, I think there is a brother that we've been discussing before, who created something called LightPay. Have you heard of that, Kyriaki?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh yeah. Dr. Damon Bryant, he created LightPay, the coin, and what they're doing is making it what they want to do is make it coin available to take out of ATM machines. They're developing their own ATM machines where you can, use payment that way. Take out fiat money through cryptocurrency machines. Obviously, if they have that, that means they're going to partner with other cryptocurrencies. So people that are dealing with cryptocurrencies, they have a good position, or whatever the case may be, they want to take profit, then they can go to these ATM machines and take out money. Albeit there are Bitcoin ATM machines, but they only deal with Bitcoin. They're in the top 5, maybe. But that's what they want to do. And he partnered with the University of Central Florida, and he's having one of their departments develop these ATM machines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one day we'll have to get him onto the Brain Trust. You look through the chat one more time. Paul Bryant says, so what stops someone from currency manipulation vis-a-vis just coding more Bitcoin into existence? Or am I missing something?
You for Bitcoin, you have what's this place called? I forgot the name of the company. Well, they protect the code. They basically protect the code. So you'll have people that are the protectors of the code that make sure that no updates are put in where you can just print more XRP or more Bitcoin, and they do a continuous code analysis, and you have white hat hackers that say, hey, I found an error, da da da. So you have
people auditing,
right? Auditing, yeah. So even though the code is open source, it's only open source for you to make something of it for yourself.
Okay, let's get to the next article. All right, this article is from newsbtc.com. Swift partners with MonetaGo.
Yeah.
MonetaGo to bring blockchain to India banking system. Let me read the first paragraph. Swift has announced a pilot program in partnership with Moneta to explore distributed ledger technology in its financial messaging service. The company's Indian subsidiary will experiment the technology with local customers' banks, which will use a shared distributed ledger network designed to improve the efficiency and security of their products and procedures, as well as to meet industry level governance and data privacy requirements. Now, we were just talking about Swift. These are the same guys who, the dinosaurs, the oligarchs of payment transactions being left behind by Ripple, and now here they are, trying to flirt with another blockchain provider.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on it?
That sounds like that's what I was thinking. I said, well, if I'm Goldman and I don't want to give up my monopoly, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna do something.
Yeah.
Well, when we see what the strategy is, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
Right.
As opposed to if you can't beat them, cheat them.
Now, this is the logical move from Swift, because by them pulling this, it shows that they see Ripple XRP as a threat to their establishment, for one, and for two, obviously they're going to try to make a change. Now, they've done dirt. I'll say they've done dirt by alienating countries in the past, by the say so of America. So people are looking at it as, okay, do I really want to continue to be with them, even though there's another system out 10, 100 times better in all ways? And so they have their challenges up ahead. If this don't work, then I can see what you, Dollar Will and Akira Geiger were saying was, get the government involved and try to hamper their progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean, there's a political aspect that we're not gonna, we'll see. Politics. When you have money, you want to have politics. So, and you
Yeah, I was
have,
thinking there would be some political risk. I mean, it may not even materialize, it may just come and go, no big deal. But I could see, some sort of political static being pulled, if things are going awry.
Now, what I can say on behalf of Ripple was, some members on their board of directors do have strong political ties. So it's like they're trying to see forward in the future and what could be a problem, and they're cutting it off right now by putting people that work at, let's say, the Treasury. I forgot specifically what people. So they have strong political ties. These people on their board of directors.
Yeah, that they would need that because basically, having a lobbyist is never a bad thing when we're talking about, billions and trillions of dollars at stake.
Right. I'm gonna mute up for a few minutes.
All right. Let me move on to the next article. All right, this article is from thenextweb.com. Vulnerability in Ethereum token allowed hackers to suck exchanges dry. Sounds pleasurable. A critical vulnerability in an Ethereum token made it possible for malicious actors to force cryptocurrency exchanges desks to spend extremely high fees on transactions. Even worse, the attackers could abuse the bug for profit. The flaw discovered by a group of cryptocurrency researchers resides in Ethereum-based cryptocurrency gas token. It remains unclear precisely how many exchanges are potentially vulnerable to it, but researchers have contacted a bulk of possibly affected platforms. The bug primarily concerns exchange services with no gas usage limit for withdrawals to random addresses. Once such a transaction has been initiated, the attackers could make exchanges pay for large amounts of computation and drain the exchange's reserves, or alternatively, mint gas token for profit. For those unfamiliar, minting refers to the process of creating new tokens. So, actually, let me read this last part. The researchers note the vulnerability could also allow malicious agents to impose extra fees on users interacting with the attackers' accounts. So what's happening now is I don't think this has actually happened yet, but the researchers, the crypto researchers, actually who do the red team auditing or red team penetration testing and static and dynamic analysis of the code, found this vulnerability that allows exploitation to happen at the holder and not at the process of the crypto itself. So if you are a person holding this token, then what happens here is your exchange base that hasn't been patched yet will actually be compromised or can be compromised, and if the attackers know what they're looking for. Now, if they don't know what they're looking for, then they probably won't ever find find out that you're vulnerable. But if you haven't patched up yet, then you're SOL. Now, this really only affects people who or exchange desks that have that don't do business with smart contracts. A smart contract would actually it's actually a digital legal tender, not tender, but a digital legal binding note that says, roughly who you are and identity, et cetera, that goes with it. So it doesn't affect those people who use the smart contracts on Ethereum, but the people who don't actually are affected by this. So word of advice from a cybersecurity perspective, always make sure you're patched. Don't, log out of all your areas of entry. So your endpoints, your phones, your things like that. If you're not using Coinbase or any of these other platforms, make sure you log out. You don't want to leave things lingering behind. Kiriaki, anybody else?
So what's and this is horrible news for people already kind of hesitant about cautious about the security of crypto in general, not just Ethereum. It's like to have a flaw like this in any major coin it's bad news for cryptocurrencies in general. What measure of security does the blockchain offer in this particular case? Is it easy to I guess track where the flaw originated and which funds were? Is it possible to restore integrity to the ledger? That's really the bottom line.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, go right ahead. Go ahead, jump in.
Ethereum did this before, and that was spawned off Ethereum Classic. It was a hack that happened early in Ethereum career, and the developers decided to redo the hack and restored funds back to investors. But some developers didn't like that. They said, basically stuff happens. And so it was a split. So Ethereum Classic came about. Now, what I've seen cryptocurrencies, and when I say cryptocurrency, for everyone that's listening, cryptocurrency is more, even though cryptocurrencies are not backed by anything brick and mortar, it's more backed by use. Huh?
FDIC is no backing of FDIC.
Right. And cryptocurrency is more backed up by use cases in terms of like their value also. So I say to say there's other cryptocurrencies that are out there that are more of a security implementation, or I would just say FDIC insurance, where they'll make sure that they are protecting investors' money. That's for right now. Now we don't know what will happen in the future. Solid will come up in the future, but now that's what's going on right now.
Okay, so you're presuming that the people that people were insured, that not many people really lost money.
And the Ethereum hack?
Yes, in the recent one, in this recent one.
No, these are cryptocurrency researchers that found the exploit. They're not saying that it actually happened.
Gotcha.
And per this exploit, only exchanges were targeted in terms of paying. When you want to send Ethereum, you have to pay gas to send it through the network, and the more gas you pay, the quicker your transaction is looked at and verified. So they were trying to get exchanges to pay more in gas, and that was the hack. But these auditors saw the flaw and fixed it.
Yeah, this is not a good time, to especially with the prices dropping on everything, and then you have the security concerns. Let's just call it. At least they caught it, yeah, but it's still not very reassuring.
Well, let's look at gas. This holiday season for Thanksgiving and Memorial Day, they found a lot of gas pumps with skimmers on them. Is that going to stop people from using the U.S. dollar because they've been compromised at the pump. No, people are still going to use it.
Yeah, because we have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
People may choose not to deal with a particular crypto or cryptos at large. I can't choose whether or not to use fiat currency.
Well, you can always choose not to use a gas guzzling vehicle like an Acura TO, but what you could do is you can get yourself an EV.
Now, we've been using the word fiat currency a lot, and right now, I don't pretty much know what that is, but for future references for years down the road, people may look at this. My definition of fiat currency, which really should be across the board, you all may add something in it, but a fiat currency is a currency that's not backed by anything such as gold or silver. America came off the gold and silver standard on August 15, 1971. So by that saying, that golden standard somewhat ain't where the Federal Reserve couldn't print it out of existence like they're doing now. So a fiat currency is something that's not backed by anything. That's
floating.
My definition.
Your definition works for me. It's floating and just value based on faith of the people.
Right. That's all it is. It's just paper. It's a collective agreement of this is the paper we're going to use to transfer or purchase things. That's exactly what it is. It's not backed by anything. It's just fiat. I forgot what fiat stands for, but it's fiat currency.
Fix it again, Tony.
Exactly.
I wanted to add to that also. This is a subtle point that is not really talked about much, but our particular, the U.S. dollar, the Federal Reserve note, in addition to it being fiat, it's also a debt-based monetary system. So every dollar that is created comes into existence at interest. And so this sets up the whole grow or die paradigm where, every dollar is debt, every dollar is an IOU. So the economy has to constantly grow in order to provide debt service. So for those of us that hold the IOUs of the Federal Reserve System, that should really focus the mind. We don't have an asset-backed currency. We have a currency not backed by anything, but also a currency that you pay for the privilege of keeping in your pocket indirectly. So I think that's an important point also.
Now, Kirigaki, when you say debt-based, do you mean, from my understanding is, say a bank or the government need more money, they will go to the Federal Reserve to get more money?
Right. The way it works, and this is a very simplified version. So the FedGov will basically create a bond, and then they'll have their dealers, right? So your JP Morgan, your Goldman Sachs's, people like that. And so what will happen is the intermediary or the dealer bank will sell the bond to the Fed. The Fed will basically exchange dollars for that bond. So they'll take the bond and they'll credit the account of the dealer banks for the cash. So that's how cash is basically created in that sense. Now, the government, remember, though, they actually created a bond to start this whole process. So they've pledged to pay X percent, whatever it is that their auction went for. And then there's also secondary market issues. Now, I'm not a bond trader, so I must defer to the bond traders for all the mechanics. But because of the way that works, the dollars are always created at interest. It's not like the Lincoln Greenback where, Lincoln basically printed the money directly without having interest attached to it.
I got a question, just so I'm keeping up with you. I could be way wrong. So are you saying that when the federal government sells a treasury bond, that's the beginning of the process to create money?
If they, so this is how it starts now, and I think someone alluded to it earlier. Bank lending, you've got the fractional reserve system, and banks will also loan money into existence. But at the highest order, yes, it is a bond exchange for cash. Now, if the Fed wants to basically, like they've been doing with raising interest rates, they want to basically take money out of the monetary system, they'll basically do it in reverse. So the Fed will basically sell the bond in exchange for cash. So the dealer will buy the bond back from the Fed. They'll take cash in exchange. The Fed will just hit a button and make that money disappear. So that's one of the ways that they manipulate interest rates, through open market operations. There's a few different ways they do it. It's all pretty complex, but at the highest order, yes, that's how that's done. It's basically bonds exchanged for cash. And then you have like a secondary order where bank lending will also create additional currency.
And in the end, as long as our economy is strong and we go to the cash register and we can buy the goods and services that we customarily buy to survive, as long as we can engage in that trade, and the dollar has the power that any decline or fluctuation in the power of that dollar is imperceptible to us, then we really don't care.
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a lot of reasons. Like,
I mean,
if my
rent is $1,300 and I get paid a certain, pay a salary from my job, as long as I can meet all my bills and my money seems to be as powerful this Friday as it was 2 Fridays ago and all the days in between. Functionally, if in this country, it's not an issue for us.
It's not like purchasing power.
Yeah,
so long
it's
as
not on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't matter to us that it is just fiat currency and the government is making money appear and making money disappear. Whereas if we were in a less stable economy in another country, then we would experience a personal, direct some impact of the money losing value, like in a very short period of time.
Right. Well, for us specifically here in the U.S., we don't experience rapid price change because we're basically exporting inflation to other countries. So foreigners are basically financing our consumption. And this is something that I've been kind of railing against for a long period of time, is that basically we don't feel the effects of all of our inflationary policies because a lot of that money goes overseas. And so foreigners finance our lifestyle, basically. Now, if that were to ever come to an end, and that could come to an end, via a variety of ways, then we would feel it. Like the tariff situation might be a trigger. We've got, and I don't understand all this 100% either, but like the euro dollars is a big part of that. Federal Reserve raising interest rates is draining emerging markets. So going back to the China article, is it a slowdown in China? Is it not a slowdown in China? Some people who argue for that slowdown would basically point to the Fed raising interest rates. How do they do that? Because the argument is the Fed can only affect short-term interest rates. So they do that mostly through their open market operations. They're basically selling bonds out of their inventory. My co-pilot is here. They're selling bonds out of their inventory and they're taking the cash. So by doing that, they're increasing interest rates, which creates issues with emerging market economies. And basically the fear is that the Fed is going to keep raising interest rates. In other words, they're going to drain the money supply. They're going to reduce the supply of money and credit until something breaks. That's the fear.
And that's even I see that's even more of a reason to invest in crypto because it's outside of this country's fiat currency supply.
But it's not outside. That's the big debate. But it's not outside of global economic forces.
Oh, it's not. It's not. It's
Yeah.
well within that realm.
Yeah,
But
I don't think there's any safety anywhere.
right.
You have
Just
to kind of, try. We have to try our best to understand where the flow of value, where value is at any given, where the value trend is, and make sure we're on the correct side of it. That's why I say recharge.
now I just see it as a hedge against the American economy, but it's well within the realm of the global economy. Just in case the American economy goes belly up in 20 some years, you know, you got this XRP that's worth X amount of money, and you can still, go to the bodega, get you a gallon of whole milk.
Or if we are loaded because we've been trading, I want to say currencies, and when I say currencies, that includes all of them, including cryptocurrencies. If we become pretty good traders, by the time something like that happens, you'll just leave.
Now, if I were talking to a client and, I'm like, advising them professionally, then what I'm going to tell that client is, look, you need to have, multiple holdings. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So if we talk about, like metals, for example, or alternative investments, depending on, how much risk that client is willing to take, it's not going to be, put 50% in crypto. It's going to be a fairly small percentage. And the reason why I say that is I think that we should always be cautious because, yes, we know that there are alternatives in the making in terms of, XRP or, you've got different exchanges, say in China and other places like that. You've got, currency swaps going on. You've got the euro and the yuan being used for trade between countries. But I don't think the U.S. dollar is going anywhere just yet. So it would be good to kind of keep an eye out on the situation. I mean, the path that we're on is not sustainable, right? Everyone knows that. It's just a question of, when is the shoe drop? Nobody knows for sure. I would probably say if I were looking for an extinction level event, it would probably be where, there's a mass sell-off in treasuries. So let's say that China, Japan, and the Middle East came together and said, you know what, we don't want to own treasuries anymore. That might be a nightmare scenario, or any sort of scenario that basically triggers a repatriation of dollars. Because there's a lot of dollars held in other countries. There's the euro dollar. There are, bonds that are issued by other countries that are denominated in dollars. There's a lot of stashes of dollars, criminal enterprises and things like that. So if you ever saw like a repatriation of dollars back to the US, and yes, you would have massive inflation and it would basically be chaos. But I'm not sure if we're going to see that tomorrow. It may be a year from now. It might be 10 years from now. So I would just say, look at alternatives, but I wouldn't bet the farm on dollar collapse just yet.
I agree with that.
When you say collapse, what do you mean when you say collapse? You mean an event that would cause it to drop at a very rapid pace, or
either
a long trend south? There's over a long period of time. Good stretch of time.
Yeah, there's two scenarios I'm thinking about. One is devaluation. The other is hyperinflation. So those would be like the doomsday scenarios. But I don't really anticipate that happening soon. It may never happen. It's hard to say. But if I'm thinking about like, chaotic events, it would be one or the other.
You said hyperinflation and what else?
Devaluation.
Okay.
So, we will often hear things about like the special drawing rights. Let's say hypothetically, right? Let's say that the world got together and they say, you know what, America's, acting a fool and we're tired of the reserve currency deal. So we're going to create the special drawing rights. and it's going to have X amount of percent euro, X percent yuan, X percent gold, whatever. And then they say, well, we're going to peg a kind of a huge amount of basically, instead of being a dollar for dollar, let's say that, just to make it a bit easier, let's say that they basically said, okay, instead of a dollar being a dollar in our basket, we're going to have a dollar being 35 cents. It would be very similar to how they devalued gold back in the 30s. That might be a scenario where that might take place.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, the last time.
I'm much more pessimistic.
Well, looking at the charts, the last time we had an issue in the market was it September 2008? If I remember correctly.
That started that last big decline in the stock market. Yes, the major indexes.
So third quarter of 2008, and we're out of the third quarter now for 2018. So a little bit stretched, right, in terms of timing,
right,
for market correction. So if you go back from 2008, the last time was late 1998. And I think you saw maybe Lehman Brothers in 2000?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So anywhere between now, fourth quarter of 2018 and first quarter of 2020, the timing should be right around that area.
Yeah, I don't think that. I mean, the dollar does. I'm just looking purely as a, pure technical view of the. When I say the dollar, I'm talking about the dollar Swiss franc. That's the one I like to follow. It does have a decent amount to go. What would be a decent amount? What am I talking about? There's a support, a resistance. Let me say that, a resistance around 1.11. That's the mystery. Are we gonna turn south right at that area? If we could get to that point in spring, we'll see when we get there. But I'm expecting to see something vicious happen with gold going south, in one of those Bitcoin types of drops here pretty soon. That's a major drop. Yeah, I'm expecting to see the dollar go north and a serious spike.
That's a major drop.
Yeah, because it's just too much. It's kind of weird. What's really kind of weird about it is we went from, you can go back a couple of months ago, everybody was all pro gold and the gold bugs were out, and now you can't find one. You can't.
Full disclosure, I am a perma gold bull. That's just me though. I'm a big fan of that.
Ooh, man.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I'll go easy on you, as if that thing going.
Actually, I like silver. I like silver better, but again, this is not a recommendation.
I hear you.
I just like to follow them.
I hear you, but that's what makes the market, as we say. But yeah, this I'm gonna tighten it up. If we hit this, if the dollar finishes this run higher, and I don't really hear anybody and not many people, arguing against it now. It sounded like a radical thing, a year ago, and I was saying, hey, the dollar has pretty good, bit higher to go. And if gold takes this dive, I'm talking XAU USD gold dollar, that pair. If that pair visits the low 900s, where I think it's going to go, that price is going to be so low. It's going to be people are not going to be able to resist moving US dollars to gold at that point. And oil is, as I've been preaching for the longest, that oil was eventually going to give up the ghost, and it's falling like a knife too. Okay, so it was all there in the chart. The only thing that hasn't really happened yet is the dollar has not spiked yet. So you already have gold and oil already panicking, and the dollar hasn't even really got going northbound yet. So hopefully it'll happen real fast. But I can see at the rate oil and gold is really predicting the dollar's next move. At some point, oil and gold is going to be too cheap to ignore, and I think that's going to turn the dollar to continue its usual southbound move. If anybody look at, say, the U.S. dollar chart since like 1970, you see that the common trend state for the dollar is to go south, and I think it will resume that trend once we see oil and gold hit those I don't want to say historic, but it will be a multi-decade low if we see gold dollar in the low 900 area.
I want to say this to Kira Gakri. After the show ends, you don't have to leave. We normally have an after show talk also, and I'd like to say hello to Nagon.
Off air.
Yeah, off air. Yeah.
What's up? What's up, brothers? How you doing?
What's up, Nagon?
What's going on, man? Curiosity, what's going on, brother?
Man, it's all about you.
Yeah,
I'm outnumbered. Nagon is a little bit of a gold bug too, right?
Yeah, I'm a perma gold. It was funny because on one of my old teams, whenever a client called about gold, they would just transfer the call to me because I was like the gold specialist. So I don't know. I like playing with it. I throw my coins up in the air like a pirate, like I like the tangible.
Yeah, I think gold certainly is the move. It's certainly for the long term. It is. My view is start buying it. I'm starting to buy some gold. Well, I've been buying it for a little bit, but you have to understand. There's going to be highs and lows. Just average your prices out. As time goes on, you're going to come out ahead. The way the economy is stacked and the kind of debt and kind of stuff we're holding, we're going to see some problems. I'm looking at the Fed. I keep telling you guys, Fed funds rate. That's the rate to look at. That's the rate that's going to tell you what's up.
Yeah, so I'm out here on the corner all alone again. Just like I said, I wouldn't buy cryptocurrencies with your money. I wouldn't buy gold with your money right now.
Well, if you're looking for short-term gain and quick, you want to trade quickly, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think when we're looking for a more longer-term play and what you should actually be fairly stacking up on right now, is that, because that's going to be the only real cash when the dollar hits its, when it gets hit, these interest rates go up, the currency, we're going to see some major fluctuations in the currencies. Or I would say over the next year, 2 years, I think we're going to see a lot of problems, man.
Okay,
yeah, I think it's going to happen much sooner than that.
When you say, just hypothetically speaking, if gold is $300, I know it's not, just hypothetically speaking. You're saying as people average it out, if it drops to $100, just keep buying it because of the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
And in the long run, it's going to go up to 1,000.
Especially if you're going to use it as a hedge, as a bet against the economy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let me just say that there's a dollar gold there. I mean, gold dollar. There's a support around $850 that I really would be surprised if we ever go below that. Or
I just want to ask Curiosity, what do you think?
Well, for our clients, actually, we position gold as more like an insurance policy. So we would say, look, have a little bit of this in your portfolio. If things go south, you got a little bit of an asset that is not necessarily correlated all the time with the rest of the investments out there. We position it more like, hey, this is insurance. Now, for me personally, I like to hold physical. You know what I'm saying? Like I like the feel of my hand. I can grab a few gold coins, put in my pocket, and bounce if I needed to. You know what I'm saying? So there is an attraction there on a personal level, but professionally, we position it as insurance, and you just never know.
I'm gonna get me a gold bar when it gets down in the low 900s.
Just get you some coins. You can just slip them in your pocket. You might have to Might have to
You
bribe a
coins.
border guard or two with it, but you know, so
I
You
all
put
want
it
a
on your
good.
bar.
necklace?
I want a bar.
You wouldn't put it on
Coins.
your necklace?
Coins are a little easier to deal with because, like I said, they trade a little bit better. Gold is not that liquid, but it's certainly it's an asset and it's a real cash.
I just want to hold a bar. I want to own a
Them bars
bar.
are heavy, man.
I know.
as opposed to a lot of the bullshit that's going on right now.
Let me get through this one last article. And
Roger
we can
that.
go through Open Mic and Black Friday.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Play on words. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
You be looking at Frasier.
That's you, brother, not me. All right, this one is from CCN.com. Christie's records $318 million art sale on a blockchain. A new milestone in blockchain adoption has been set with the successful recording of a record-breaking art sale on the blockchain. On November 13th, the Barney A. Ebsworth collection sale at famous Christie's auction house in New York raised a total of $317 million, in the process becoming the most valuable art auction to ever be recorded on a blockchain. In a press release about the auction, Christie's revealed that the auction was handled in partnership with art-focused technology provider Autori, using its permission blockchain to host the auction information. This is interesting because most people think that there's only one blockchain, and there's actually more than one blockchain. You have a public base, immutable blockchain that doesn't actually change, and then you have permission-based blockchain, which is a privately sanctioned version of the blockchain where you can actually make changes and edits and things of that nature, but it's still recorded. So
Can I?
jump right in.
You. Okay, now leave that picture up where the art piece is outside of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they're saying for the people that don't understand the gist of the article, paint the picture. What they're saying is, okay, you get a bunch of investors together. Normally, historically, art has had a perception of it's only for the uber rich, the lifestyles of the rich, to other people who buy and sell and collect art. But what's happening now is, since blockchain is getting more and more into this arena, it's allowing regular investors. You still have to have a little bit of money, but not as much money as you used to have to have. They're letting regular investors buy pieces of this art, not physical pieces, but say shares. So you got this piece of art that you're looking at on your screen. So let's say they broke this up into 1,000 shares of this art, and you purchase each share of art, this artwork. What happens what's now happening is it's becoming more liquid. There's more money in this space. So the artwork is not as illiquid as it used to be, but it's still not super liquid. So what a company does is they'll store this artwork in a somewhere. So what the people who sold this artwork, I think it was like Artori, they're on their blockchain. What they'll do is record who owns the shares, when they sold them, to who, when this artwork was restored, where this artwork is at. So on the blockchain, this artwork and also paintings, it says where's the authentic painting at. It cuts down on fakes. It lets you know when it was restored and everything. So you have all this information on the blockchain. That's what this is talking about.
They basically created an ETF out of this artwork.
Exactly.
Interesting. That's an interesting thought. And I wonder, because I looked at it and it said that the privacy of the purchasers was strictly respected. So I wonder if this is a convenient vehicle for folks, especially say in China, who want to get their money out of the country, and they're doing it using crypto. Is that a fair assumption?
Or using artwork?
Yeah.
Yeah, just because I know there's a lot of restrictions on money movement But a lot of folks are trying to, get their money in different locations. So that would be one way to accomplish that.
And it would make the art industry more liquid also, because the art industry is notoriously illiquid. You're trying to sell multi-million-dollar paintings. It's hard.
Well, I mean, that's actually it's actually going to boost the art industry, because I go to the art museum myself at least once a season, and you don't see a whole lot of people there anymore. I think people are really consumed by the social media and things of that nature. It's really drowning out the showrooms and things of that nature, the expositions, and I think this may end up actually bringing back the art industry and driving up the value of it.
Yeah. I like it. So,
check out some of our black art.
Right.
Bill Cosby did a lot to focus attention on that. He's a great, well-known collector.
What I mean, is it his sweaters that is considered to be artistic?
That too.
Now that's an idea to have black culture, bring it to the forefront, applying it to the blockchain. That's a great idea.
I would love to see more graffiti be taken seriously. A lot of our graffiti gets it gets a bad rap because it's associated with hip hop and black culture, but a lot of that stuff is really, really good artwork because it gets mimicked around the world. If you go to East Germany and Japan's another hot spot for hip hop and graffiti. I'm not talking about the vandalized, draw a penis on a mailbox. I'm talking about real big art pieces that take time and dedication to put up there. With Krylon and other forms of spray paint. I think a lot of that stuff could be considered real artwork now too. I mean, in Boston, we used to have a wall dedicated for for the graffiti artists, and then the racists came by and basically took the wall down. It was a lot of good pieces on there, man. Very valuable pieces, and some of those guys are not even living here anymore. They passed on already, and some of the other guys actually work for Echo and some of these other clothing companies now. So designing hip hop clothes now that everybody else wears around the world. So that's what I'm getting at. A lot of our artistic pieces are actually missing now. Also, I just wanted to finish off by saying this: that please don't put that famous picture of the black man holding up the black woman and the black child in the world. Please don't put that on the blockchain. We really don't need that.
That's gonna be the first one they go on there.
You talking about the Kunta Kinte picture?
No, you talking about the one with a guy holding the globe in one hand, giving it to the weapon.
Oh wow!
Yeah, putting the Daggle. The Daggle is on the blockchain now.
I wasn't going to say anything about the Daggle.
Oh my God!
All right, let's go to open mic, man. Black Friday. What did you guys get?
Nothing.
Nah, I concur.
Wifey handled that on my part. She actually did all her shopping online this year. So,
actually, I take that back. I got a coat for my daughter since she's coming up here.
Let me see. I'm gonna grab an iPhone for the grand. He wants to see iPhone, so I had to tighten him up. So do that for him, and let me see what else. Some stuff. I got one little young lady who I'm kind of checking out. I might get her something, I might not. I don't know. It all depends. That's about it. Keep what you kind of saying.
Oh, come on, man! This your one time a year to simp hard, man. Simp hard. Get it all in for the whole year. Do it right now. Do it right.
He's doing his Daggle shopping.
Do it right.
My aversion to the simp game is so strong. It's so powerful. The thought of you actually even going in and buying something for a lady is almost makes me shake. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but we'll see. We'll see. But I have tremendous aversion to this, to simping.
Yeah, that gene is still there. That gene never dies.
Yeah, I tell you what. When you have to give a broad a house.
Yeah, that would do it.
Let me do this.
Go ahead.
Since we all black men on here, we all have a negative connotation of us. We don't take care of our kids. Okay,
that's a lie.
Right. I'm thinking about getting this for my daughter. Nice little cute sweater.
Yeah, that'll work.
I'm thinking about getting this for her.
How old is she?
11.
Yeah, that'd be real nice.
Yeah.
What else does she want?
Well,
daughters are cool.
Yeah. She like this Monster High crap. Well, she's not gonna look at this. She like this Monster High stuff. So I got a few of those. I'm going to start weaning her away from those dolls because she's going to be 12 in January. She's starting to get older. She's deep. She's heavy deep into art. So I remember taking an art appreciation class, and the book that I purchased for the class, I didn't know nothing about art, but it really showed me the different genres, and it really broke it down to the simplest of ways. So I bought her that book. To get her to understand different ways of art, different genres of art, what's art, and also I like cologne, so I bought this a while ago. I bought this unisex cologne by Christian Dior. It was like a fruity candy smelling, but I gave it to her, and I showed her where a woman should wear cologne on the back of the ankles. In the arm, in the pits of your arm, not the armpit, but the pits of your arm. And I talked to her, and she said she went on a field trip and she wore the perfume, and she said she got compliments. So I purchased another sample of cologne. I bought, it was Portrait of a Lady by Frederick Malle. So I bought her that and one or two other things.
Well, listen, don't just know, man. Them daggone those dolls, man. That's quite a collected market. There's some money in that, man.
Yeah, she schooled me on it. She liked the Littlest Pet Shop stuff. She said it's a collector's item, so she liked that.
Well, in terms of art, Microsoft actually makes a new Surface that's designed strictly for that. I forget the name of it, but it's a relatively complex surface that it's used for art design.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, it's a really popular. It's on sale right now, I think, for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. But definitely something to look into. Seems to be very popular in the art community.
Yeah, because when I speak, she liked to draw. She draw really good, but
does she have a sketchbook or a Bible?
Sketchbook.
Yeah, get her a Bible too.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
Bible. A Bible is basically a black book with this sort of fine texture paper for art.
Oh, really?
I used to do that in graffiti when I was younger.
I'm gonna definitely put that on the list. But I was telling her, I like jazz, and I listen to jazz, but she didn't really know that music was a form of art, and I was trying to teach her that there's different art forms out there, not just drawing pen on paper, pencil on paper. So that's the reason for me. She knows there's photography is art and so forth now, but I want to really teach her the different ways of art, the different genres of art. That's the purpose of me buying that book for her.
You're a great dad, man.
Yeah, I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
Yeah, man, we don't get any kind of credit, but I was over there, hanging out with the fam on Turkey Day, and it was about 8 of us brothers, and we were all in the lives of our children, and they were all playing and all that. So, I think that it's infuriating because all the brothers that I associate with, they may not be, you know, married at home with the children, but they're at least there, you know what I mean, looking out for them and all that kind of stuff. And as for me, my wife, I kind of outsourced the task of buying stuff to her. So I'm like, you know, handle that. So she my son has an iPad. He uses it for home and for school. They don't have books. Everything's done on the iPad. So we're gonna get him some Bluetooth, you know, headset and some other like technological stuff. And my daughter is gonna get clothes, I believe. So that's kind of where we're at. Plus, we every year she gets a new baby doll. So yeah, that's that's the new thing. So
My daughter used to be into
How old are your kids?
so my son is he'll be 10 in January. My daughter's 3. So there's a gap there.
Everything you have is little, yeah. All my kids are grown.
Oh, is that right?
So yeah, man. My oldest is 30.
30.
Yeah. Youngest is 24. So,
All right. That's what's up.
Okay.
Well, they're not gonna complain if you get them a gift.
So I guess.
Man, I'm asking them to give me some gift shit, man. You give me a gift, goddamn. That's what I'm asking them to tighten the old man up and shit.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta make them pay back for all the years of struggle and sacrifice. You know what I mean? So,
man, let me tell you something. I'm making sure I can take care of myself. I ain't counting on them up to take care of my ass.
That's the
tell them that AARP didn't kick in yet. You need a little bit of assistance.
Man, they still trying to hit me up for dough. I'm like, man, Papa, he busted, baby. He busted.
Instead of dad's paying child support, they should pay father support.
Yeah, man, they definitely own my ass.
man.
But at the end of the day, I tell them, all right, they owe me, but you saying fuck pops. They on their own now. They on their own.
That's the Surface you talking about?
Yes, sir. That's it right there.
Ultimate Creative Studio.
Yep. It's supposed to be like really, really top notch. I saw it at the Mass College of Art. So
yeah, I'm gonna look into that Bible and this because she's really into art, man. She be I at least if I can show one right on here, but she be sending me like texting me stuff. I mean, like the attention to detail is like Tease. I'm like, Tease, man, you it's pretty good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Does she draw like Western style, or does she draw like anime at all? Or
she draw anime, but she draw it freehand.
That's really good. That's good.
Yeah,
that's talent.
And the anime is like animals, like these foxes, like with human bodies, and she drawing freestyle. And I'm like, Tease, this is good, Tease.
She's left-handed or right-handed?
She is
ambidextrous.
No, she right-handed. Because there are a lot of people in our family that's left-handed, but she's right-handed.
That's talent.
She's supposed to be left-handed. I know it's gonna sound strange, but when she was a baby, she was walking up the stairs and she fell forward, and she braced herself. You know how you stick your hands out and brace yourself. So she jammed her wrist on her left wrist. So she wore a cast. I mean, like everything's all right now, but before that, she was writing with her left hand. So she had a cast, so she started writing with her right hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have any flat screen TVs, anything like that? You see that's
See, like my family, everybody got a flat screen. Everybody got that. So the flat screens are played. Now it's just what's new. Right. I think it's more like clothes and stuff. Like I said, the grand. Yeah. It's like what's new. I mean, it's like we all have it. Everybody's got a big flatty. Yeah. And they're fairly cheap. A couple $100. You straight. You know what I mean? So it's not really you paying like huge money for them.
Yeah, I picked up a 60-inch flat screen with artificial intelligence in it. I guess that's what it's supposed to have. And whenever you watch a movie, it changes the screen from like theater to musical and things of that nature, to sports. So if you're watching the basketball game or the NFL, it actually switches the screen setup automatically.
That's cool.
Nice.
Sweet right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately,
no projections. Nobody got the projection.
Projection.
You know what's that?
You mean insecurities? Project insecurities? What are you talking
about? The high def projector project the image on the wall. That looks good.
Oh, you mean an overhead projector?
Yeah, overhead projector. Yeah.
Oh no. Those things only work well, in my opinion, when you have the right screen for it, and you have to have the right projector. I mean, you can just throw one up on the wall. I know at Home Depot they sell a specific type of paint. You can paint your wall to use the wall.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They use the wall as a screen.
Have you seen those YouTube? You have seen those YouTube videos that are demonstrating it? Man, that paint it seems to work pretty good. It looks impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you got the homeboy hookup and he's trying to paint it, man, he's using the old ass rollers.
Hey, wait a minute. He used one that he used before, and it's all hard where you gotta put hot water.
Homeboy hookup.
Yeah.
Man, that all works, man. It all works. It's all good though. Oh, you have a little bit of fun with it, man. You know the way I look at it. You know, it's just. You got to ask the kids a lot of times what they want, especially you got young ones. You got to ask them; they'll tell you.
Hey, break them off some money, man.
That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, I've heard a number of injuries this morning about people getting trampled in some of these Walmarts and all these other stores.
I ain't trying to go up in there with them, man. Come on, man.
You know what's crazy? Like, my wife will actually go, like, Thanksgiving, midnight, and she's like, I'm going to go out. I'm like, okay. And she goes, and she must be throwing bows because she comes back in one piece with a bunch of stuff. But this year she said, I'm just going to order online. I said, thank you. That would probably be a better idea.
To me, it's too much of a hassle to elbow somebody to buy something that you don't really need. Like, what's the point in all that?
Women are good at that, man. That's a sport for them, man. They're vicious, man.
That's their thing. I was watching, this was a couple of years ago. I think it was in Walmart or one of these places. People were buying cheap little waffle irons.
Mm-hmm.
Folks were knocking each other's heads in over to get those, and they were stampeding people. I was like, what is this?
And then the crazy part about it, they probably made waffles once or twice, and waffle sense.
But it was
what though? I worked at my George Foreman grill. That I used my George Foreman grill like a boss. I had to keep it 100.
How many have you had? I've had about 3.
I had a 2, and then finally after the second one broke, I let it go. But man, George Foreman grill was the truth.
I still have mine.
I want to get the other one. What's the one with the temperature? It's not a George Foreman per se. It's like it with the interchangeable, I think it's like a panini press kind of thing. A different plates, a temperature dial, and all of that. Man, you got the waffle plate, all kinds of. Yeah, man, I'm about that.
Cuisinart? Are you talking about Cuisinart?
That might be it. That
sounds
might be
about right.
Of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Folks are running around literally knocking each other's dicks in to get to literally.
We still
to get that shit. I was like, what the fuck?
So and the thing is, what they're doing is that they'll have like 10 in stock, and you're like, oh yeah, it's marked down, and it's only like 10, but there's 100 people out there. So how are you supposed to? There's no way for you to get that. It's just not worth it.
Man, I ain't trying to get caught up in that, bro.
No,
but they be shooting in there, man. Like they be bucking, just come in, just bucking,
and going buck crazy over.
No. I think they stopped that now. I think most stores, like Best Buy, Walmart, they all have to have local law enforcement as detail now. I think they have to stop.
Well, that's for them because one year they had one brother. he was at the front of one of these Walmarts. He got trampled, and he died. He lost his life. Lost his life up in that bitch. I was like, can you imagine losing your life in a store for people to buy shit? It's crazy.
Yeah. I would be mad. Like, I would haunt that mug. Like, man, this bull stuff, man. Bull stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying, man, it's crazy. But that's kind of what goes on.
That's how you know we're at the height of the market, maybe the height of capitalism.
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna see some changes coming down the pike.
We're gonna see some changes.
Huh? I do see it. I see it. I see it. I see it.
It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of long faces too. It's gonna be.
It is. I mean, listen.
Long faces.
My man dropped. Okay, we all know Republicans came in, ran $1 trillion, put another $1 trillion deficit up in there. That was that was basically a de facto stimulus package, I believe. But it's probably not going to really work out like that long term. And
unless, of course, unless you got like an S corp and you're getting your 30% tax break.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that. Have your business is a great tax break as well. A lot of tax breaks out here, but the name of the game is when this bubble bursts, how's everybody going to do business? Where's all the business going to be at?
I don't know. It's going to be a lot of long, like some people are calling it like the everything bubble. And I think that's an accurate statement. I think it's going to be a lot of sad faces when it's all said and done. So,
yeah, man, we're a long way from, remember those George Bush stimulus checks?
Oh yeah, the stimulus check.
See, the young kid don't know nothing about that. Explain that. Explain it. Run it past them about the George Bush stimulus check.
But you know what though? What was crazy? I got my stimulus check, and I immediately turned around and paid off the credit card.
That's right.
Yeah, well, people are gonna pay down debt with it, but the stimulus check is supposed to be to spend money in the economy to keep things going.
So millennials, if you're listening. Yeah, George Bush just cut checks and sent people money. It was like $100?
$250.
Yeah.
It was something
pretty fat,
and they said, and the big argument we were saying, he needed to go to the economy because if you send it to working, poor people, basically, we gonna go and we're gonna spend it. We're gonna go buy rims and everything else. We're gonna put it in the economy. We're gonna do that.
Put some old school spinners on there.
That's right. You can't give that money to like the rich because they gonna save it.
I always hated to say, people always got mad at me when I said this, but welfare. Not that I am a big proponent of it, but it does have somewhat of a stimulus effect. It does. A lot of us don't want to talk about that, but it does. It's not good.
Well, yeah, like foods like what is it, TANF? I mean, that's a big stimulus if you are like a grocer or somebody like that.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If someone's gonna hand me free money, then I'm not gonna say no.
Right.
Yeah,
well, then that brings up the question, then, right? If reparations were to be paid to Black people today, would they actually benefit from it?
I think Dave.
Well, the question is,
if it came in money, no.
If it came in cash money, Negroes would trick it off.
Right.
But
Dave Chappelle showed y'all what would happen. Young Brand stock would be at a record high.
Yeah, Negroes would trick it off.
Chicken inflation, man, would be ridiculous.
That's so horrible, but
Negroes would trick it off. But if we were going to get it in certain kinds of institutional areas, like education and so forth, I think it could do a lot. I mean, you have many Negroes out here that say we shouldn't get reparations, of which I disagree with.
I'll tell you what, I'll take it. I don't think it's going to get offered, but I would, if I were to, choose the form of the program, I would probably say something like the GI Bill, because I think everyone can agree that
the GI Bill
was not equally distributed to the ebony soldiers. You know what I mean?
Well, it was distributed, but the problem of it wasn't. You couldn't use it like the white boys could. That was the problem. I mean, I just go back to Levittown, how the government literally redlined your ass from buying these houses, and the GI Bill, was there for you to buy them, and then you got these fucking these shine ass mullions running around talking about, oh no, you got a credit problem. There was no credit issue at all. You got these
it was straight up.
It was they redlined you out, and then they told you couldn't buy those houses. And
well, it really makes me. What really gets my
I was gonna say this really quick. Those houses now are worth $500,000-$600,000, and the surrounding neighborhoods that were close to that were black are not worth even half that. So it's like, it showed you how the wealth game was really screwed, and then you got these fucking coon ass shines talking crazy. That's the shit that really bothered me. These shine ass cool niggas talking out the side of their necks. It's like, you guys even have any facts on any of this? It's terrifying.
Well, the other thing is, part of that, they also allowed, the white soldiers to basically get very low interest rate loans to start businesses. That's what really burned my, that's what really gets my goat. So something like that, like a Marshall Plan, if you will, for, ebony American folk, black folk. Oh yeah, that is definitely justified. I don't think we're going to get it in reality, but I think it's something that we would definitely deserve.
I don't think we're going to get it anytime soon. But let me just dust off my crystal ball. Let's say we have a moment of consciousness, and black folks become a little, more Pan-Africanist, and Africa becomes, and at some point, America wants to, for some political reason, give us reparations as a way of ingratiating itself to Africa. It's something like some political thing like that could happen. That would be far, far, far into the future. We would have to change our mindset. And I think as a part of some political play like that, it could happen. But we will not get reparations because America thinks it's just the right thing to do. It'll be for some political chip. That's the only way it would happen.
Well, America's never done anything for black people because it was the right thing to do. That's never happened. It's never happened in our history. But so it would always have to mean something.
Right, but we don't have any. The only leverage I can see us really having is if we had better relations with Africa, or established some kind of relations,
for sure.
And then something like by proxy, they would be good to America, would be good to us, as it would have been good to Africa. But we would have to position ourselves to be like advocates for Africa here in America. That way, Africa would see value in us. Okay, and so we're not even in that headspace, but that would be. Your grandkids would hopefully pick that up.
The brain trust is in that headspace, but other platforms are not. They're too busy talking about comic books and take you out to the parking lot.
Mike, stop.
There's another word.
We passed that, man. We passed that, Mike. Come on, we're in a new the manosphere in a new improved air, space now. So
that's true.
That
was
true. Yesterday.
That's
true.
Was
yesterday.
That's true. But the mean streets of YouTube. Like I said before, I think the brain trust is in the suburbs for that matter. So
yeah, this is definitely not your typical conversation speaking about the D that must not be named. I don't even want to speak about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I will tip my hat to the manosphere. I have seen, shout out to everybody with different channels. I mean, I've been like really, really proud of the diversity of content I've seen in the last couple of months. You know, people have been talking about some of the things that we talk about here on the Brain Trust. So I do see people stretching out a little bit.
Pan Africanism is definitely the way for us to go, and you're gonna have a lot of people who will sit here and tell you, "Well, they sold you, they don't like you. I wait for my reparations here." You hear people saying that.
Exactly. Yeah.
They ain't your friend. They don't like you. You need to develop here black politics. But so you have those. You have that contingency, and then you have those who are thinking, from a more global perspective, which is the way you have to be thinking, because that's how if we are going to get reparations, I believe, as Dollar Will was saying, you got to put a lot of you have Africa as a very strong buttress to play that could put a lot of pressure here, and the problem that I see with us, which is really problematic over the last 25 years at least, or the last 30 years, we've forsaken the foreign influence when all before it was all about foreign influence coming in here and making changes here in this country.
You're right about that. I was just thinking about that.
We somehow have just closed in on the inside. Say, okay, well, we're going to work here in America, work with these people, and you've lost underneath that. We've actually had losses underneath that. So we got to branch out and bring international pressure back here into this country again, and that's the only thing, and that's something that we stepped off of, and that was a mistake. And whatever leaders are thinking this way, or having to think this way, you have to reject them, and you have to start to think broader. Go ahead.
Well, I got another idea that's controversial. That I'm not trying to start no fights, but I usually end up doing that. But we got to rethink this whole thing of, hey, everybody join the military, because that's a heavy chip that we have. We giving it away for free. If we were just make America court us for that, okay? Because right now it's it's voluntary. Now maybe if we were reluctant to join military service, maybe we would have to draft again. But I mean, but that's a heavy chip. We could say, hey, we want you to do better by us. We don't really feel that enthusiastic to go and volunteer without X, Y, and Z changing for us.
Well, you could also create your own private military corporation and then charge the United States back that way.
Whoa.
Or both.
Yeah.
Because eventually, because the stuff they've been training for in Africa, with that brother being killed in Niger, they're talking about a possible 9/11 style attack happening in New York, coming out of Central Africa, and the need to go into Africa, with boots on the ground.
I think that's some CIA propaganda bullshit to get us to come in to destabilize this motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which country would that maybe take place in?
For the Francophone states, your Niger, Cameroon, Mali.
Sounds like maybe the French would benefit a great deal if that were to happen.
The French are very nervous. That's why there's so much talk now about this EU army. The need to. Go ahead.
Well, that was the whole deal behind Libya, the Francophone, them dried up fucking frogs over there, man. Their asses are drying up, man.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to come in and still try to get down and kind of rape Africa. And what do we do? America came in and saved these guys. I'm of the mindset right now. Fuck Europe. Fuck them. No. Fuck them. And it's now time for us to put more emphasis in the areas that mean a lot more. Fuck them motherfuckers. Let their asses fucking dry up. I don't give a fuck about them.
We still live, nigga, right?
I don't give a
that's
fuck.
fine.
I'm talking real deal stuff.
He's right.
The future
he's right that
the future's in Africa.
Yeah, he's right that the French are worried about European capitalism being driven out of Africa, and you drive, the European economic structure out of Africa. Europe is going to collapse overnight.
Yeah.
What's really interesting about that, and I like to get your brother's take on this. There were a few articles that talked about, for all the complaining about, the migrants, they were like importing them in because they knew that they needed, the labor. Like they were importing those African guys in.
Absolutely.
Welcome here, red carpet. Here you go.
Let me just give a shout out to Information Man. He's in the chat.
Yeah, I sent him the link. He should be on his way.
Cool.
What were you saying, Kyriaki?
No, just the fact that, on one level, they're talking about, the migrant issue. Hillary Rodham said that, y'all Europeans need to chill out with this whole migrant thing. But quiet as kept, they were, basically shipping them in because they needed the workers and the fresh injection of blood, if you know what I'm saying. I just find it to be very ironic.
Yeah.
They needed a new labor class. So you had a lot of well-educated Europeans who couldn't find work in places like Greece and Italy because their economies are so destabilized. They started fleeing. So they started fleeing either to the eastern blocks of Eurasia for work, or they came to America. And your millennials can't find work. I think their unemployment rate in Greece is something like 66% or 68%.
And let me just say this: employment rate is very high. They got no dough. You saw that brother Bakari Henderson or whatever his name was went over there. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Went over there last year.
Yeah,
just hung out. Hung out in the place. He was with a bunch of pusillanimous white boys that were traveling with him.
Oh yeah.
He was talking to some white girl, and these guys got upset, and they came out there and ran up on him and killed him. About 10 of them ran him down. 10 of them ran him down and stomped him to death. And because he's in Greece, because ultimately they were going to a place where the economy was bad, and they saw brothers coming in there, and how the women are. Women gonna be like, well, opportunity calls.
Well, to be honest with you, Nagone, there's a lot of far right groups, especially in Greece, that have political power now since that happened, and a lot of those far right groups that were on, for the audience as well that listen to this, those groups are spreading from the United Kingdom, from Canada, all the way into the Ukraine, all the way up on Russia's border. And what you're starting to see now is a lot of these guys, from some of the videos I've seen, they attack black people. All these African migrants that came out of Libya and these francophone states, looking for work. They're going over there killing black men. Drive-by shootings, stabbings, jumpings, lynchings, and all this other type of crazy stuff that's going on over there. And this other brother who got jumped, he's just one of the many victims of black men that keep getting attacked by these yo-yos.
Yeah, and he was an American, a tourist. He wasn't going over there to take any work. In fact, he was over there to spend money. But their racist views, So I say let those guys collapse in on themselves. Fuck them. Fuck them to hell.
They've been talking about using the EU army to actually invade Africa, to protect their assets, European assets in Africa. But I don't know how long they think that they can actually get away with that for, because there's a lot of there's a lot of guns that came out of Libya. There's a lot of Kalashnikovs floating around the continent. With these armed groups. You think that they're gonna let some blue-eyed soldiers run in there and try to take it from them?
And you have Russians who have got interest. Chinese. It's not within their interest to let these savages walk through there and destroy it like that. They're trying to work their game. That's why we should be over there pretty heavily right now. Afro Americans, we could play a real key role.
Very strong role.
We could play a real strong role. Only problem is when I say get your mind right, these fucking shines sitting up in this piece up in here. These fucking shines. They sit around thinking that this whole thing is just all about sitting here, and they can't think. They can't think beyond this, and they want to sit back and talk about the glories of the Republican Party and all this kind of crapola. They don't see the big picture. Mm-hmm. Stupid motherfuckers, and that's what bothers me about us. Mm-hmm. A lot of us would just fucking, I'm sorry right now, I'm just talking.
Damn, well, you're not going to be making too many friends.
Real straight, but we're too fucking stupid.
And he's having a Brett Pill moment.
It's just kind of where we are, and we need to think a little bit clearer than that. Our vision is not very clear right now. We don't see that there's a lot of opportunity. And we're not seeing it. We're sitting
There's
here.
a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, we were sitting up here there's a lot of opportunity. We're not seeing Africa's a big piece. And our minds ain't right on this. Mm-hmm. Our minds are not right. And
that's why
there's some brothers who understand it.
Yeah.
Some sisters who do as well. But a lot of us are sitting here, running with white man talking points, loving him, being unconscionable fucking shines, and it's time for us to really turn this thing around a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why we need to establish a African American Union, an AAU.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
It wouldn't be hard for us to establish it either, and conduct our own domestic and foreign policy, economic policies for domestic purposes, and your foreign policy is for for geopolitical advantages and security of the continent itself. Take responsibility for it, because it's obvious that some of these shines that are over here, they don't always uphold their civic obligation to the continent itself.
No, they don't understand it. They don't quite understand this international play. White folks play it all day long. Others play it all day long, but we seem not to be able to see that. And I find that disturbing. Kiri, what do you have to say about that? What do you think?
Yeah, when you say that the international dimension, that is really important because, after thinking about this, like I like to focus on the time period of like Du Bois, and there are a lot of folks, a lot of intellectuals who supported, like, say, Imperial Japan back in the 1900s or so, because the Imperial Japanese were making inroads, but also the quote unquote Negro intellectuals of the day were saying that, okay, we can partner with Imperial Japan to counteract some of this white supremacy. So yeah, I think there's definitely opportunities. I can't help but to be optimistic because I see it's kind of like, you're a quarterback, you see the field, you can see all the opportunities, but yeah, I think folks aren't really thinking like that.
No, it's a hell of a point, because that was a big part of the Muslim movement here. They were linking up. They took a very pro-Tokyo view, and that was one of the quiet things that were really shaking up America during that time, and why they wanted to really kind of work.
The integration thing.
A lot with integration, because they saw that here you had millions of people, black folks, who were disenfranchised and being treated terribly by these savages, and what we were looking at were options. And the Japanese at the time were like, listen, the black man is also an Asiatic man. And to you And to you black folks here, we're gonna offer you a better deal. Let's talk. Let's sit down.
There's a
Japanese
lot of that, and the Russians too. Like especially in the '60s, they were doing all kinds of operations, and
but
so
the Japanese,
of course,
but the Japanese targeted the black community.
They did,
and that brought a lot of fear.
It did,
and that put pressure on the United States, because now the United States is sitting there saying they can develop fifth columns of others inside of our country. There are too many black people that we just can't erase them all like this. We could have a real internal problem going on here. And so, that's that international perspective that's always made moves here in this country that so many of us have just lost sight of. Anyway, go ahead.
And weren't the Vietnamese actually, the Viet Cong were actually on the side of brothers?
Yeah. The Viet Cong were like, yo, man, excuse me a second. Why are you
fighting us? Like,
why are you fighting us? Why are you fighting us? And then you saw that's when the Muslim movement, this country, Muhammad Ali, kind of being out front on some of this. It's like, man, ain't no Viet Cong called me a nigga. You savages, you fucking animals. He calling out the white man. He's calling him out. And as you know, here in this country, this Negro, he afraid to call out this white man on his fuckery as well. I mean, we can call each other out on our fuckery, which is cool. I'm down with that. But when it comes to calling out this white man, we can't call him out. And, those dudes were calling him out all day. And was putting a lot of pressure on them. And that's what we need to continue to do more. We got to call these guys out when they're way out of line. And then, there's a lot of folks out of line right now. But let's just say we have to bring international pressure. And we have to work internationally. It's smart. Pan-Africanism, or working from a more American to African type of view, is within our interest. It's greatly within our interest. There's a lot of opportunity, right? I believe there's a lot of opportunity opening up right now. Go ahead.
I think creating a new political architecture as well that fits within the confines of Black Americans and their ability to export that same political architecture outside the country would actually would be just as beneficial as well. What we're seeing right now is we have these shines out there who don't care about black male disenfranchisement, the lack of economic power, the lack of political power, lack of judicial power, and you have these shines that are running around talking about
fucking shines, fucking Mulian shines. Anyway, go ahead. No. I've got horrible words for them. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. You have these shines running around talking about sanctuary cities and same-sex bathrooms and no economic ideas.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that is not that's not our interest whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
It kills
me.
Meanwhile, there's all types of opportunities for space exploration with microsatellites, these cube satellites. Right. Lift vehicles, these new mini rockets that are being developed. Just all types of economic opportunities in Africa with all these resources on the ground. You see Akon creating his own city, with his own crypto. Meanwhile, you got Shines over here moonwalking.
Yeah. How y'all brothers doing?
Hey, what's going on, Information Man?
What's up, Information Man? What's up, Brad? What's up, baby?
Man?
What's up, bro?
What's up, man? It's good to be with y'all, man. I'm kind of doing the family thing, but I wanted to get on, show respect because the brother invited me. And you brought up a very good point. I wanted to ask you, brothers, I feel like when you have these shines or these so-called black leaders, when they're not talking about the sort of things that you brothers are talking about as it relates to economics for black people, that in a sense tells you already where their priorities are, who they're really serving. They're not really serving us. Because it seems like a lot of these so-called black leaders, they keep us in the same narratives, constantly in the same narratives. And, I was listening to Jason Black the other night, and he's talking about the big time stuff that's about to go down over in the Manhattan area with Amazon moving in, and the fact that black folks are going to be a done deal in the New York area, if they're not already a done deal, as black folks are becoming a done deal in California because of this gentrification and these economic moves. and it's funny because we don't hear any of these so-called talking head or black leaders on TV or anywhere addressing these issues as it relates to us in terms of, are we prepared for where this 21st century is going? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'll set it off and then I'll pass it. The problem is that with people like this, black people are not thinking about fourth industrial revolution.
Yep.
That's coming. They're not thinking about the next 100 years, the next 200 years. They're not thinking about cryptocurrencies and blockchain. They're not thinking about digital architecture. There's a lack of literacy, not just on the fundamental reading side, but on the digital side. You know how to use Facebook, but you don't know how to drive the technology. So there's a lot of consumption. There's a lot of consumption happening on black people's side of just like junk food politics. When you have Amazon moving in, those are below minimum wage jobs that are going to be provided, unless you're at the the FTE level, which is full-time employment, and that's not happening for black people. So we have to think about more creating co-ops, tech co-ops that are going to allow us to bring. That's going to allow us.
Let me just say this, brother.
Go ahead.
The jobs that are coming, the Amazon headquarters, they're going to have a dual headquarters between Manhattan and what's the other place? What's happening is they are creating Amazon jobs not for the low wage worker. They're talking about it's going to be international, where they're bringing people across seas, just like in Silicon Valley, where I'm not that far from, where they've outsourced labor from the outside in. And so my concern is that the reason why black folks are in this condition that you speak of, brother, and I agree with, is that we have the wrong leadership. And as they say, leadership reflects attitude. Black people have the wrong attitude towards economics, towards upper mobility, and thinking in an enterprising manner, because we are too busy listening to leadership that pacifies us. I submit that religion, no respect to anybody on here who's Christian or Muslim or what have you, but I believe particularly Christianity, religion in that sense has pacified black people to be too caught up in believing in something, hope, the Jesse Jackson slogans. I hope this happened. I hope that happened. Instead of a proactive attitude, and we get that reflected in our religion. It's reflected in our political leadership because they come right out of that church system, and it's reflected in the attitude that we have, in which we just living from paycheck to paycheck, from day to day. Okay, as long as we can pay the bills, we think everything is okay. And then we're left out of the loop. I mean, I can go to a business seminar where I live at right now, and I could probably count the number of black people that are attending these seminars that are about making money, about creating business and getting into computer industries and shaking hands and elbows with people who can actually take you to that next step or you know what I'm saying?
Right. So that goes back to what I was saying before, that's a literacy issue, right? They don't even understand the basis of capitalism. Everybody wants to, I'm going to get mine, you got to get yours, that type of deal. But when it comes to black people, that economic structure is kind of closed off, especially from black men. When you go to places like Baltimore, St. Louis, Chicago, unemployment rates 48, 55, 60, 63% in places like Baltimore for black men. 2 out of 3 black men can't find a job, right? So you have to start thinking about these new platforms of not just capitalism, but just economics altogether. Co-ops, tech co-ops, urban farming, taking shipping containers and creating your own farms and working on hemp production and things of that nature, things that society needs to sustain itself. We're not thinking about providing that. We're always thinking about consuming it. So that's where the issues are for a lot of these black people. Go ahead.
The biggest problem we have really is the mindset. It's the whole mindset that we have, and that is the change mindset is difficult. We have to really look at how we have to think about things, and that's why it bothers me when I see many of these unconscionable shines up front talking all kind of bullshit, and they perpetuate a certain mindset. I'm not mentioning names or anything like that or any politicians. I'm not gonna get specifically into that, but any politicos mindset or whatever. But these folks are just not putting forth a certain type of leadership as far as changing the mindset that we have to have to be more successful. And I think much of that could be changed through our education, through our schooling systems. If we were to take a lot of this over ourselves and, quite frankly, educate our kids in some different ways than how they're being educated now, and where business and these kind of things would be kind of standard learning tools, if you will. To learn, these are tools you have to be able to learn to be able to use, and that's something that we're just not taught. We're not taught that. I believe we literally have to be taught this in school. I literally think that's how important I think this actually is. And I'm not talking about this current school system that we have, but more of a kind of like how Jeffrey Canada and them have it over there in Harlem with the children's zone, where they're doing some of this and taking over education and taking it out of literally kind of taking it out of the hands of the not so much taking it out of the hands of the public sector, but controlling it more so. Getting your charter schools and so forth to really be a lot more responsive. We have to our educational system is just it's not there for us as we see it enterprise wide. It's just not there. We have pockets that are really killing it, but enterprise wide it's not happening. I actually think we have to be taught business and these kind of things. We have the change in mindset. We have to really start training our kids this way, literally from school.
Yeah, I think that it's sort of along the lines of what Nagone is saying. It's a cultural thing, and it's a multi-generational thing that we don't have the self-confidence for self-determination. And so we look to join existing parties and fight about whether we should be Democrat or Republican. First of all, we need to be us and know what we want, what are our issues, and we need to
interest hold on, you hitting it right in the head. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
I'm agreeing. Interest first.
Yeah. So we need to, and then once we know who we are, then we can evaluate if these other parties are fit for us to, for any kind of coalition. Maybe we can, maybe we can't, maybe in some limited ways, but we need to, first be self-defining. But we don't have the self-confidence and the strength to stand apart from America, from white folks, just make it funky, and say, look, I'm not compromising. This is who we are. This is what we want. This is what we stand for. We're always looking we are too ready to compromise to be in what we think is joining forces with someone else. But really what happens is we sell our interests out just to stand with a big crowd that ignores us.
I'd like to chime in real quick too, and then I'm going to drop off the panel. So a lot of powerful words. I agree. It has to be about interest because, I'm talking to clients every day. They ask me what's going on with the future? What's the economics look like? What about this? What about that? And a lot of folks are making moves to take advantage. I believe we're going to be coming up on a anything goes, winner take all type of economy and society. And a lot of folks are not prepared, for that. So getting the mind right, as Nagone would say, is crucial. And on that note, peace of the panel, peace of the chat. I am out.
Kiri, good man, good hearing from you, brother. Good seeing you.
Deuces.
Peace, brother. Peace to you.